Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's Mathew's Coffee Bar. I've been looking forward to having this time. This is where I get to chill out with my buddies, with my friends, and we have coffee and we talk and we share, sharpen one another. Even as we look at the current situation, this is your new normal Java, as it were, where we get to have coffee and just talk as friends. And today is a special day. Allow me to begin by apologizing. We weren't able to come on Wednesday. I had a busy international meeting and just could not make it. But we are glad that you are following us today. So welcome aboard. I have some amazing friends of mine as usual. And every night I dare try to bring in someone different. And today we have an amazing, amazing man that I've known so many years. He is a great, great, great authority when it comes to the youth ministries in this nation and in this city. This is none other than David Ewagata. We call him David Ewags. He's an amazing man when it comes to young people, young adults, worked with him, and he's just great. And of course, the usual gang is in town. Yours truly, Reverend Becky Baraka. And of course, Ken Odipo Dori, the man with the gadgets. And of course, Richard Kedenge, Chogo, my friend all a long, long time. And all the way from the Queensland, yours truly, Gitao Gakuo is in the house, chilling out. And these guys are just looking forward to have a great conversation in the house today. So welcome aboard everyone that's watching us on Facebook. We're on Facebook Live. We're on YouTube Live. Of course, we're on Twitter and our website as well, www.dcdurham.org. Don't you be fooled. This is a place for sharpening one another. We'll have conversation. We will joke. We will laugh at one another. But at the end of the day, we will have encouraged, educated, sharpened, refreshed, and strengthened one another by the end of the night. Well, guys, welcome. I want every one of you just to say something so that the audience out there can know you are here. Even as you give us your opening remarks, it's an open space. When you go for coffee, when you're hanging out with friends, there is no agenda, but just to have koinonia and to have fellowship. But let me begin with a guest in town today. David Ewagata, please tell us where you are at, of course, what you're doing. I'm sure the viewers out there will love to know what you're doing and, of course, be able to welcome you aboard. David, take it away.
Thank you, Pastor Matthew. Thank you for the time to be able to just share with us tonight. My name is Pastor David Ewagata, as you've heard. I love young people. I love working with young people. I love just mentoring and discipling young guys everywhere. Serve right now at Purpose Center as the pastor for youth, but I also run a ministry called the Y Hub Networks, Upper Thika Road. And so our joy is just to work with young people. So I'm dealing with young people around the campuses around this side. Yeah.
Well, it's wonderful to have you on board, David. And I always, of course, love the stuff that you write on Facebook. Man, you have just been blessed with a gift of scribbling, the scribe's gift, so to say. But welcome aboard. It's great to have you here. Of course, we want to welcome Gitao. Please tell us what's happening so far in the land, the Queensland. Are you guys about to get unlocked and unleashed into the world, or you're still on lockdown?
Thank you, Matthew. So the Prime Minister on Sunday changed our sort of lockdown policy slightly from stay at home to staying alert. And that has now created a bit of controversy because people do not understand what staying alert means. But the other countries that form the Great Britain are still on stay at home. The impact of what he was saying is still not clear, but the general trend seems to be numbers of, unfortunately, people who are losing their lives, even though it's still high, they seem to be on a downward trend, but still not at the rate that people would feel comfortable that we are out in the clear. So we continue to pray, we continue to exercise sort of common sense. My take on it is I'm still exercising the same restrictions that were in existence prior to Sunday. So yes, so we're still there. Still a great worry. It seems as if we are on course to lose about 40,000 people.
That's quite huge, Gitao, right there. I mean, 40,000. Talking about losing about 40,000, Becky Baraka. I would like to know. I mean, okay, let me just begin you off the cuff. I mean, random right here. My question begs, by the way, is it that because we see this happening, we see, of course, what's happening in the UK, and of course in other nations where the US, of course, with lots of people are dying. But well, I know there's been a debate. I know there's been discussion. I know there's been arguments back and forth about why Africans are not dying. I know, of course, we have found a very good herbal drink in Madagascar that is taunted to treat, glory to God. But let me before I even can bring in Becky, Wagat, I know you have something to be able to weigh in on that. Really, is it that people are being aligned to us? Is it that the numbers are not what we're being told? There could be higher, or where exactly is Africa? Why aren't we? And of course, this is something to celebrate. But why aren't Africans dying like these other people are dying? David.
Well, it's an interesting scenario. I know everyone is crossing their fingers and hoping that it doesn't erupt at some point, because the news that was coming around and the predictions were that we would go to the millions, if not hundreds of millions of lives being lost in Africa. If you heard what Melinda Gates said at some point. But for me, one of the things I said, and this was my prayer over Africa, and it sounds selfish, but I was like, we've had Ebola, we've had drought, we've had famine, we've had, all sorts of things happening in Africa. And I just told the Lord, listen, this time, can we have a Passover? Can we just let this thing pass over? Because first of all, our families are not ready. They were not ready even for the common cold. So we can't imagine ourselves with the coronavirus attack in Africa. There is no government that is ready. There is no medical system that is ready. We are basically trusting in the Lord. Some may trust in chariots, some may trust in horses, but we'll trust in the name of the Lord. And for me, this has been my prayer, and I trust that the Lord will just honor us, not because we are better than the West, not because we've done anything nicer, not because we pray more, but just for once, the foolish things of this world. It says it picks the foolish things of this world. It picks the ignorable things of this world to shame the wise, to shame the strong. And this time we are weak economically. We are weak in terms of healthcare. We are weak in terms of governance and systems to be able to cope with this thing. The only thing we can ask is, Lord, like Jehoshaphat said, Lord, we don't know what to do, but our eyes are set on you. And so our eyes are set on the Lord. And so far, he's gracious. He's been very, very gracious. It's nothing short of a miracle. If you ask me, it's nothing short of a miracle.
Okay. Right, Becky, now, I want to introduce you, Becky, into this conversation. And I want you to weigh in also, throw in some bit of additives or add-ons into what David is saying. And of course, this is really profound, the fact of just trusting God. But Becky, what is your take?
Becky's mute.
Yeah, I'm
unmuting her. Yes, go on, Becky.
Sorry, I want to say sorry. I just want to say thank you for having me tonight on this show. It's always good to come to this show because this is where we really get to sharpen one another and just know what is happening around. And together with what our brother Wagat have just said, I want to say that there's one thing I keep saying, that God has been on our side, especially in Africa. When you look around, you can only say that what is happening is not a man's doing, it is God's doing. And in this, I've said, repeat, that if God would judge us according to how good or how bad we are, then none of us would really qualify. But by his mercies, God has just been on our side. When we look at what has happened in Africa, we can just say that it has taken God's hand, not because of anything good that we have done, but because we have trusted in God and just believed him that something would happen, and this virus would not just hit on us in a big way. Looking at it from all points, you will realize that if you look at our facilities, if this thing hit us so hard, it will be a bit difficult for us to contain everything in our facilities. We do not really, in Africa, we do not really have what it takes to do or to preserve this, to do what we would have done if this virus hit us so hard. But one thing I want to say, in wrath, God always remembers mercy. And that is the mercy that we've been calling upon God, that he should just remember us. And I believe where we are today, it is not because of our own goodness, it is not because of the things that we have done well, but I just want to believe that it is by the mercy of God we are where we are. And we are continuing to plead for that mercy. We've just had what we call divine protection. Because looking at everything in our own, we wouldn't have come this far just to get what we have gotten. But by the mercies of God, God has given us divine protection. Because if it were not for God, I could say what the psalmist says in Psalm 124 and verse number 1, that if God had not been on our side, what would Kenya say? What would Africa say? We can only say God has been on our side and is fighting this battle, and we are believing him that this battle is going to be won by him and not by man. So mine is to attribute all the glory to God.
All right, thanks very much, Becky. Guys, just feeling just free to kind of just go in. This is not really a panel discussion per se. This is just chilling out, hanging out, and whatever you feel in your heart, just throw it into the mix as we navigate through our discussion tonight. But I'm thinking, I don't know whether you guys have felt this, David. I don't know about Gitao, because Gitao is on another part of the world. But here locally, I'm beginning to sense like there's some bit of relaxing even tour. I don't know whether it's been sensing that, or is the fear that was there initially kind of just waning away, and people finding some sort of rhythm in either the way of handling this thing, or probably a lot of what was hyped and seen as a danger now seemingly not looking at it, and people beginning to be careless. I don't know what you're noticing, but I seem to sense that. I went into Sarit Center today, and it's the same sort of feeling, Richie. What is your take? What do you think? Is it that people are beginning to relax, or that maybe God is giving us a victory, and that is what we are sensing, and therefore there is peace in the hearts of men? Richie.
Okay. I think, I hope you can hear me.
Loud and clear.
Yeah.
All right. There are many factors, and yes, people have begun to relax because it almost looks like the trends we are seeing out there are not, becoming the reality here. But from where I sit, I'm just thinking there's the whole thing of we're trusting God that this becomes a story for us, a miraculous story. That's what we are trusting God for. And that's one of the things I pray. I mean, every morning when we do our devotion with my family, that's the one thing we mention in prayer. God have mercy on this country, because we can't handle the full force of that pandemic here in Kenya. But then there are many other factors that people are arguing, that could have led to this. And even with that, I'm saying God used those factors. There is a whole factor of, I think, I read an article on the African Report suggesting that Africa is not as connected in terms of travel as some of the parts that have been worst hit. Because, like last year, Africa got a very small percentage of tourism compared to New York, compared to Italy, compared to these other places. And so maybe that contributed. Other people are, suggesting that probably there's something about us being exposed to a lot of viral, infections here in Africa that probably could develop antibodies. But either
Tumezoea
way,
hii maneno.
yeah,
Eh.
when
Virusi tumezoea.
I grew up, when I was
Yes.
growing up, we used to
Yeah.
have people who would call, and they're still there, called chokora. They
Yeah.
can, they can take something that is already begun to smell, and they can eat
Yeah.
it, and they will not go to hospital.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you touch just something that has gone a little bad, you get food poisoning, you'll almost die. So there are many.
Yeah.
We are, what I would say, there's a good friend, not a good friend, one of my former bosses who, one of the first things he taught us when we joined this team, he said, pray as though it all depends on God, and then plan and be cautious as though it all depends on you. I think we need to really pray hard and really trust God that this is a miracle of God, but then we need to be on the lookout. I'm beginning to be worried about people being relaxed, and because I went to town yesterday, and people are easy. People are just, going about, and it's like nothing. And people are putting on masks because they don't want to be caught by the police, not because they don't want to be caught by the virus. People are staying in their homes, because they are afraid of, being, caught by the police, not because of the virus. And so I'm hoping that, for whatever reason, God will just be merciful and keep us. But I'm also worried that the numbers are slowly rising as they continue to test. They are finding more numbers. I wouldn't be shocked that this thing is already with us. And some of us have caught it. Like I had a long conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. He said he suspects he had this thing sometime in February.
Naikaisha.
Because alishikwa na kaoma kidogo, and then here the wife akashikwa na kaoma kidogo, and then so it's like hii kitu imeshatupiga. Alikuwa anasema hii kitu imeshanipiga ikaenda. I don't know. And again, good people. I think even those people we are looking up to as scientists, they are still trying to figure out these things. The Dr. Fauci's of this world are still trying to figure out these things. So, we just don't know what's going on here. And so, that's my take at this point.
All right, let's welcome Michelle Mangeli. Karibu sana, it's great to have you, sir. And you have been doing books all day long. It's very gracious of you to come on board. Karibu sana. But before we get to you, Michelle, I want to appreciate one Philip Musia who's joined us, Andrew Tolo Iwamanya, God bless you, Pescom Kenya, Grace Mwangi, Fred Mwoki, Sharon Korir, and others that are just coming in right now. God bless you. Ken, what is your take? What is the Lord speaking? You are an advanced man of God. Maybe God has dropped a word in your heart that can tell us, guys, relax, this thing is gone. After you remember someone said it will just disappear like that, Could that be the case, Ken? Yes.
Thank you very much, Reverend Mathew. It's always good to be here. I'm glad to see my friend that I preached with over 20 years ago in Moi Girls and other places, David Ewagata. It's good to see you on board.
You are trying to make yourself sound very old, Ken, and we know your age, brother.
We're not old.
No,
the other day.
I have a history. I have a history with all these great plethora of ministers that are here. So I have a history with them. Anyway, just to cut the long story short, we have been praying, Reverend Mathew.
Yes, sir.
And the Lord answers prayers. We have, number one, been praying that the spirit of fear should go away.
Amen.
And I think fear is going away based on the way people are behaving. And it's not really necessarily that they are as careless per se, though there are those who are actually careless, as my learned friend Richard Chogo said. There are those who are putting on masks simply because they're trying to avoid the 6 months jail term and the 20,000 shillings that might be charged to them. But Kenyans have been praying, Africans have been praying, and I believe our God answers prayer because the Lord encompasses around those that love him. So I believe as we keep on praying and even sharing here, our message is to give our people hope as much as they are supposed to follow the directives given by the government. But we cannot afford to be afraid. We have a great shepherd who's watching over us. We know Africa is not so much endowed in terms of facilities, in terms of healthcare and what have you, but it's just by the mercy of God. It's just by the grace of God that it's not rising as you know. I realize that the total number of people I think who've already been affected in entire Africa is about 76,000 compared to people in the US who've passed on. It's not that we are so special. It's just that Africans love prayer. And number two, Africans have fought with a lot of witch doctors and night runners and soothsayers and that we are like anytime we see a pandemic like this, we know how to respond. We are used to equating everything to be a demonic power. If we see a cat, that's the devil that has been sent. If we see a snail somewhere, that's a small spirit that has been sent. So we bind everything. So I think in solidarity in Africa, as we bind everything, I think God is hearing us. As much as some of us might not really be privy of what is going on, but God is hearing the prayers of the people of Africa. That's the much I can be able to say for now. Thank you.
You know, I think we can actually allow all the scientists and everyone else there, the pragmatic thinkers, the practical thinkers, to say, you know what, this is this and this is that, and maybe you're not getting enough figures and so on. But I think I totally agree with you, Ken, that it's good to really attribute how far we've come to God. I think it's good to really appreciate that, because honestly speaking, I have a team. We have over 500 Gideon's Army guys that have been praying. They are not the only ones praying. People are praying all over. And truly, if we be people that believe in prayer, it's not like it is useless work. It is God moving. You know, I appreciate, like, for example, the initiative that Apostle Kimani began. He began with a whole month of prayer and fasting. Now he's gone, I think, 6 months where they're doing 24 hours. That just excites me, because in the place of prayer, we obviously are going to make it. Michelle, I want to welcome you on board. It's really great to have you here. We are just kind of just opening it up, just talking about where we are at, of course, with this coronavirus thing, and more so, just beginning to observe is like, of course, there was a lot of fear when this thing began. I mean, I could touch it literally, and then of course now I don't feel, it's like people have come, or rather gotten into some form of rhythm in how to handle themselves with this thing. Yes, the numbers keep to be going up, but we know there are certain concentration pockets, like for example, Isili, and of course now the borders like Namanga, you know, Kibokoni, Mombasa, and Kawangware and such, and of course the government has done what it has done. But we're just asking here, is it this that probably is a witness that God is giving us? Are we kind of through the red, or what is your take, Pastor Michelle?
Thank you so very much. Great to see each one of you. Thank you, Reverend Mathew. Thank you, Chogo, Tiggs, and you know, our learned friend Ken Odwar, and our lady in the conversation. That's Reverend Becky. Thank you so very much. I've been following through until I've listened to the wonderful contributions, and of course, the Wagata. Wow, great to see you, Reverend Mathew. You seem to have brought all the big guns. And you never seem to run
na
out of them.
bado hata unye tutamleta hapa.
I rest my case. That day I'll be buried in
See
books.
you, Michelle, man.
Karibu sana.
Now, I'm so excited because of the conversation, and I'm sure it's a very valid conversation because it's kind of bewildering some people from some quarters. And I really want to agree because, of course, you know, if you pray, you have to believe you pray to a God who is not deaf, a God who hears. And we're not just saying that it's only us who pray and the rest of the people don't pray. But I want to couple two things. One, it is God's mercy. That's I think it's been said before. And I think that God just treats us, you know, in a merciful way that this point in time when the numbers are killing elsewhere, here God has been gracious. Honestly, we have to say. But I think it's beyond just that. I think God has an agenda. There's God's mercy and the God's agenda. And it looks like God wants to turn attention to Africa. He wants to turn the eyes of the world to Africa because we've never beaten the developed world in terms of economy, in terms of healthcare, in terms of planning, in terms of leadership. We've never been anywhere close to attracting attention. We've always been read in a negative light and even stories created to paint the picture even worse. But I think this point in time, God has an agenda apart from his mercy. He has an agenda to turn the world to Africa. And he also has an agenda to turn Africans to start believing in the God they've always believed in. Because God has an agenda to begin to trigger a revival of the church, a revival of the economies and industry and innovation. And I said again before, and I said, this thing began in the West, where we thought it's an epitome of research, you know, and medical and science innovations and discoveries. But they were found flat-footed. They could not deal with it. And always, every time we face a problem, we'll always turn to our big brothers to find help. They will let us send kits, send doctors, you know, send discoveries and bring money. This point in time, it began there. So somehow, by the time it is getting here, we were actually looking at a hopeless situation and say, okay, now we're just waiting unless God intervenes. Now there's no other way. And that is when actually God turned to reinforced himself as the one who's in charge in Africa and also helping us to get knowing we have something in here. Ventilators are discovered and they're made here in KU. Sierra Leone, they just manufactured another one for 6,000 bob. When the other one from China is 1.6. Yes, 1.6 million. But in Sierra Leone, it's 6,000. What does that tell you? We have COVID organic thing from Madagascar. With all the discussion and all the debate around it, it is actually the popcorn of testimonies coming out, discoveries we would never been had. If US had the cure, nobody even remember about some ventilators somewhere in KU. We'll always be waiting to import or waiting for donation. So I actually think God has treated us with mercy, but God has an agenda in this continent. Now, coming to our nation here, because I think you asked me that.
Yes.
I think I want to agree that we have prayed and people are building faith and moving out. I believe a greater percentage, it is faith that is at work. You know, Africans and Kenyans are known to be very faithful people and optimistic people and hopeful people. So they are going out believing, you know, we have prayed. They know we have taken this time to pray. That as it may be, I also want to throw in and say this. There are people who can no longer stay at home.
Yeah.
You know, in the West, people are getting paid when they are at home. People, when they lose jobs, they're getting stipends. Here, there isn't such. The other time, Kawangware was saying, don't even come and try to test us. We want food. Food is what we want, because I would rather take a chance with corona, but I can't take a chance with hunger. Because hunger for sure will kill you. But corona, it's 50-50. It depends. And in the event probably you get infected.
And that could be asymptomatic.
You know, people look at that and say, yes, and we could weather it because we're getting stories of recovery. So somebody say, let me take a chance with going out to get something for my children. But if people were getting something to do and be able to feed their families. I think somehow they would say, okay, fine, we have faith, but we're going to avoid the guidelines. But now some of them actually gone out there because they cannot no longer stay at home. Businesses have closed. There's nothing to feed their families. So they've got there and hustle. So it's a combination of those two things.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I want to invite Gitao into this discussion because sitting there and watching you guys and it's okay, are you trying to suggest you're not praying in Europe? Are you trying to say stuff like that? So Gitao, you are the outsider here. We could be bashing where you stay, and probably there is something that you need to just throw into this discussion that will help balance. Not saying, of course, what we're saying is wrong, but you are looking from the outside looking in. What is your what do you think? What do you think? I mean, I know you guys, of course, keep on getting news from back home here, so it's not like you're in the blind. But what do you think could be, happening here? Is it that we are not telling you the numbers as it is on the ground, or what really? What is your take on this, Gitao?
It's difficult to know, obviously, Matthew, because I'm speaking from outside. I agree with a lot of the comments that have been made. I agree with one of Michelle's comments about food and support. But that comes to just what I want to say, that if and we're believing God that God has vindicated Africa, then I think we have to start thinking seriously about how to build a future Africa on that foundation. And that means having proper systems so that if you have future pandemics, and God forbid that would have future crises from here, but if we were to have future crises, you would have structures of government, structures of political and national leadership where the response to support the vulnerable is right there available to people. One of the countries that people are looking at to in the West is South Korea, because South Korea, immediately this thing came out, they went into a severe lockdown and testing everybody, which has got similar traits to what some of the African countries have been doing.
Mm-hmm.
A bit of a lockdown and also testing to find out where the hotspots are and managing.
All right.
So for me, yes, let's keep on praying. Here in Europe, we have got a lot of Black people who are passing away. And it's causing a concern. The government, the UK government, has set up a commission of inquiry to find out what is going on there. So I think from our side, we're just facing huge challenges where if you think of 40,000 people dying, you think of all the people who would need counseling, the bereavement and the support that comes out of that. It's a huge population that is affected. But our prayers is that through that, people would find God.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really great. And I want to bring you back again, David, because I know you have your ear to the ground, and especially in some of the politics that seem to happen in our country here. There has been, and I've read a couple of excerpts, of course, and I don't know whether you watched, those are nuts, by the way, in the US, that was losing a lot of the F word every time, but she was talking about how, how that they were just not caring about certain people or certain color, and Gitao just mentioned that there's a commission of inquiry. And I don't think we've had that issue in the UK. I wouldn't, because I haven't heard. But it sounds like there's some bit of that sort of thing in the US where people of color or African Americans seem to be neglected to a certain point. Or there could be an agenda. I mean, here is now where my friend Richard comes in because he's a man into conspiracy theories. Could be an agenda to finish the black race. I mean, in the US, there seems to be a bit of that you see, and we see that coming every other time. Those underlying, overtones where it's like certain people, and I saw another clip, similar thing, you go there, they tell you, go back home, you go take care of yourself back home, they won't treat you in the hospital. I don't know whether there's anything that you can throw in as far as that is concerned. And could there be also, of course, some bit of conspiracy here, because the question begs, because a lot of what we've had here is that 75%, I mean, it's official, 75% of the Kenyans are asymptomatic. In other words, they have the virus, but they're not really catching the disease per se, and which still means it's still a risky thing because they can pass it on to someone else, but they themselves are not going into full blood. So how come here, and of course, I'm not, of course, weighing down the issue of prayer, and of course, where we are, definitely God is working here. But then, so there isn't anything unique, really, as far as African Americans are concerned. But could it also be that there may be some sort of deliberate effort on the part of some of these Western governments to reduce the Black population, wherever, whether it's in Africa itself or where it is those immigrants out there?
Before you even go to the West, somebody posted one of those videos, and I was like, it's not even the whites. We can't even say the white American population there. Even the Africans, we are trying to reduce our population. So we need to come back and focus here. Because we're talking about negligence, be it of race, be it of nationality. We are seeing the same reality here. I mean, look at the story of Ken Walibora. Just because he didn't have his ID, his medical card, and his name, he died in a hospital in Kenya, which is manned by Africans, which is in the heart of a city that he has been known, literally in a nation where his name is renowned. And so basically what I think we are not noticing is that sometimes if I walk into a place and somebody looks at me in a particular way, I begin to look for where is the hook. Is he white and am I black? Is he rich and am I poor? Is he known and am I not? And so it's very easy for the African American. And I know there are racial issues. Yes, I know they are there. We've seen all those videos. But I come back to Africa and I say, if you don't know somebody, perhaps right now, if you are arrested by the police, you've come from your kidogo pale nje ya home. If they arrest you right now and you don't have ID, you don't have your phone, you don't have access to any one of the guys you know, you will be in quarantine for 2 weeks. Not because of the color of your, but because of just the sense of lack of a human being. So for us, quarantine has become the new concentration camp. If we catch you, we throw you there. It is free punishment that, in fact, the government doesn't pay for its punishment to you. You pay for it yourself. And so I try to pull them aside. Let's come back home. Because if an African was having a good time here, having good respect and honor from his country, they would be going out there as expatriates. This is what I say. When you leave your country that is doing well to go to another country, you're called an expatriate. If you leave a country that is struggling to go to another country that is doing better, you're called an immigrant. If you leave a country that has fallen apart and you go to another country that is together,
you are a refugee.
You are a refugee. And so they treat you not because of the color of your skin or your race, they treat you because of where you've come from. So when you see them saying you African, it's because they're like, man, where you come from. That's why an American will stand in the middle of Central Bank and say, I'm an American citizen, I want to be treated right. You're like, guy, you're in Kenya. Why? Because he knows he's coming from a country that honors his nationality, that respects. That's why if a Briton is stuck in Mathare today, let's say when the lockdown happened, he was there. The British Marines will make their way through the Kenya police. They will get their citizen.
Even Italians had to go and deliver their own from Somalia.
Yes. Wewe kwama tu hapo Garissa Lodge.
Yeah.
That is value. And so it's a matter of value. Let's forget is it a white man doing it? Is it a black man doing it? Is it a Chinese doing it? No. Yeah. Do we have an honor for our people? Once we have that, everyone else will honor you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So sorry, Mathew, can I just butt in to say?
Yes, please go ahead.
What David is saying is very pertinent. I think there's something we've lost in our psyche as Africans, because the independent fighters, they had a sense of pride as Africans, and there was, from there you could see there was a growth of African intellectuals debating things from an African perspective. But we've become
Pan-Africanism was really in the hearts of these people.
Yes, and I think we've become our own worst enemies. That's what I hear what David is saying. We terrorize each other so much that that outsiders don't have to struggle to exploit us. We fight against each other anyway. So it's so easy for them to come in and exploit our resources, to exploit our labor. I agree with David. I hope we can, God help us to rise to a place where we respect each other. And one of the things you find when you're living in the West, if you ever get in dispute with white people, they close ranks.
Yeah.
They close ranks. And you, the outsider, will lose.
You're going to lose yourself.
You will lose it. Why can't we be the same in Africa?
Yeah.
Why can't we be the same as Africans? That we come together. If there's somebody attacking you, you say, at the end, we have to be united and say, I'm going to defend my brother. I can challenge, I can correct my brother, but he is my brother.
I hear you, get down. I hear you.
I'm going to give you guys in about 5 minutes because I've got another meeting.
All right.
Don't worry. Ken, you look like you wanted to say something. When you feel free, just step out. And you can always check our house before we leave, right? Yes.
All right.
Go ahead, Ken.
I think I just wanted to say, just trying to listen to these great minds that are here today. I think I'd just like to say that maybe this COVID-19 is telling Africa, it's now time for you to put your acts together. Because nobody told the Africans to close their borders. They did it by themselves. All of a sudden, Africans have discovered that they've got potential to open up industries within their own countries and even manufacture their own PPEs and come up with different things without getting any donation. All of a sudden, Africans have discovered that they've got, we realized just by the mere fact that, the president had requested that people should be able to contribute towards a particular kitty to reach out to the rest of the people, who are hurting and are unable to meet their daily needs. It's the same Africans within Kenya who brought in millions and millions of shillings to be able to take care of their own. So for me, I believe this COVID-19 is teaching us as Africans that you've got great minds within your countries. You can be able to come up with better things within this country without actually, importing things inside the country. You can have your own test kits. You can have better machineries in this place that will be able to alleviate any challenge that is in this country. The leadership all of a sudden are listening to one another. We see the coordination between the Ministry of Health, between the Minister of Internal Affairs, together with the President. Nobody is throwing stones at one another. All of a sudden, there is a cohesion. People are able to blend in regardless of our party affiliations, telling Africans that you can be able to work together. You don't need to cling into power until you die. You can be able to get out of particular power because all of you have got an equal opportunity to lead the country. It's like we are being brought together. And if Africans can be able to realize that there is great potential within them, hata kama Madagascar are telling us they've got, Kikombe Ababu that they've already come up with all of a sudden.
Yes.
It is okay.
That's Africa.
This is just for us to be able to know that there is great potential in the inside of us. On the flip side, if Africans are being attacked in different places, either they are dying or maybe people are afraid of them, is that people have realized that there is something in the lives of Africans that can be able to bring a change in the entire world. So there are those who are afraid of them, would like to kick them out because they are wondering, how come these people are not dying the way we are dying? But there are places whereby people are dying. Like now in the UK, it's a great concern if Africans are dying. I was saying, could it be that simply because the African countries have refused to take heed to, whatever Bill Gates was saying with regard to vaccines, could it be that they're devising another way to make sure they test it on those Africans within those places, that even if they don't make it to Africa here,
Conspiracy.
they can be able to
Richard,
sort them
your
out?
friend here, conspiracy.
Maybe that's the case. Anyway, that's it.
Oh, Richie, are you hearing your brother, Richie? I can see you smiling, Richie. What is it that you are thinking? Hey, conspiracy is gone back home, right?
I think
This is the product of watching too many X-Files.
By the X-Files used to be my up to now is still my most top on the list of my best ever TV shows. After X-Files, nothing else has come up that is worth watching.
Maria.
However, yes, I think I wouldn't want to go the direction where Reverend Ken has gone boldly to, and in terms of conspiracy. However, I would want to go, and I wouldn't even want to rule out if you've watched Maafa 24, a documentary by some Black Americans called Maafa. You can't rule out possibilities of some conspiracy here and there, especially when it comes to the issue of abortion and all that, because in that documentary they're saying the highest number, the highest killer of African Americans in the US is not even drugs, it's not even gun violence, it's abortion. The highest concentration of abortion clinics are in African American neighborhoods. And so it's I don't want to throw out the issue of conspiracy, but I want to take another angle. I think our challenge is that we Africans, we need to resolve the issue of respecting ourselves. Psalms 133 tells us, how good and pleasant is it when brethren dwell together in harmony. And it says,
God bless you guys, I've got to go.
God bless you. So sad you're not going to hear my conspiracies.
I'll call you tomorrow.
All right, no problem. I'll wait for your call. Okay. So, I mean, it talks about God commanding a blessing where people have harmony. And harmony comes when we respect ourselves. And I think one of the biggest challenges that Africans have not learned to respect themselves. In fact, if you go in these other places, you find Africans have given into the mentality of victim mentality. So they carry themselves around with, they suspect themselves. Then again, we have continued to suffer from the mentality that made some of our ancestors sell our own people to slavery. That mentality is still the one continuing with our leaders currently. Our leaders currently have sold us to slavery. They have not sold us like our ancestors on boats and sent us to Europe or to the Caribbeans, but they have sold us to the Chinese. They have sold us to the IMF. They have sold us to Bretton Woods institutions. They have sold us to slavery. And it's because they don't respect, they have not respected the African They have not respected the African. When a train accident happens in Japan and a few people die, the Minister for Transport resigns because he values the lives of Japanese. When something happens in the US or wherever, and their people are affected, and it's under somebody's docket, they resign. Here in Kenya, I mean, how many people have died because of floods? Yet, some of these ministers...
236 by yesterday.
Exactly. And nobody is being held accountable. For how long have we had floods in Budalangi? For how long?
I mean, every time.
We have leaders there. Shame on those leaders. Shame on those leaders. If they are driving big vehicles, shame on them. Shame on them. Because how can they drive those big vehicles and people are dying of floods and they have not developed those places? I don't respect...
Drive over the floods.
Yeah, I don't respect in fact, I don't respect their vehicles. I don't respect their... I mean, how can somebody talk about Kibera being his bedroom? And those people are living in squalor. And he still thinks he's a statesman. Shame on him. Shame on him. How can we have a president and in a country like this, and we are evicting people, just because they want to, I don't know, shame on our leaders. Shame on them. How good and pleasant. Let's come together. Africans need to come together and decide we are going to change the way things are done in Africa. Some revolution needs to happen in Africa that will rid of those people who are still operating in the spirit of our ancestors that sold our brothers who are now dying in the UK and dying in the USA. May God help us. May God help us.
Amen. I hear you, Rich, and Becky, I'm coming down to you now. Becky, there's something that I've struggled with, Richard, guys. I mean, and this is, I still feel like there's something, and we are ministers, and here this is really my punchline here. We are ministers, and there's something that I totally feel like this either needs our input as preachers, our input as ministers, because I still feel, I don't know about you, and you can disagree with me, that's okay. But I feel like there's something that needs to be broken in the mindset of the African, and especially those that were colonized by the West. I mean, it's like that colonial mindset. We might say we are free, but it seems like it keeps on dogging us and taking us, kind of just dragging us along all the way. And that's where the leaders are. I don't know about you, but sometimes you almost feel like the minute Mzungu shows up in a meeting, is like, now God has shown up. The major has shown up. And just to break that, I don't know whether to call it a curse or jinx of our heads, seems like something so difficult. You see our kids, when they're growing up, seeing a white man and they're fascinated by this, not necessarily because they are of a different color, but you still seem to think that same, they are superior, we're inferior sort of thing. And guys, I don't know, Becky, what is your take? And you've traveled a lot, Becky. I am sure there are things that you've seen and probably provoked you. I would want to hear, even as you come back and think in terms of sometimes how we are treated out there, and how we also perceive ourselves in here as in relationship to this Western world. I mean, I'm sure there are times things that are provoked in your heart. And I would want to hear what your thinking has been as far as that is concerned.
Okay, having listened to my brother speak, it just makes me wonder, where did we throw our values and values for ourselves? Because you can only be treated according to how you handle yourself. People will always receive you according to how you look at yourself. And one of the things that we need to know, to understand, is that if there is no change if our mindset cannot change, we will always behave like we are second-class people. Because one of the things that we need to understand here is, yes, people can look down on you, but there is one thing that you must understand: who are you? You are not so much of what people say you are. You need to begin by understanding, who am I? That is one of the things, because you've talked about traveling, and I know maybe in my early days of traveling, it has changed nowadays. In my early days of traveling, you could get to some of these nations, and people would just not understand who you are, where you've come from. And some of the questions that we ask you would be questions that leave you wondering what is different here. So I have come to be that I am not what people say I am. I am what I know I am. And that is the things that we need, our mindset from having believed a lie. Because I'm thinking from our upbringing, from our backgrounds, we believed a lie. Yeah. And the lie we believe the white man is so superior than any other person. So I don't know whether we believe that because of their skin, or I don't know whether we believe that because we looked so much to the West for the help that we needed in Africa. But we have to get to a place whereby we got to have a shift in our mindset, knowing that we can do all things. Let me say like the scripture, we can do all things through Christ who gives us strength. Because our God is not a respecter of person. And in this, we've lived like, for God to do something, he will do better for these ones before he does it for me. I stand opposed to that and say that we've got to get to a place and have a shift in our mindset that we are who God says we are, not what man says we are. We cannot accept being treated like underdogs just because you came from Africa. It doesn't mean coming from Africa is not being human. So one of the things, the major thing for us as individuals, we must have a shift in our mindset, because we idolized the white, and we have never gotten to a place of feeling they're just human like we are. Maybe we just thought they were superior, but there is nothing like superiority when it comes to that. Having traveled, I got to places, like my first time of travel, I couldn't understand. I realized I know more than some of these people, because go to the white man's country, talk to them about their history. They don't know anything much about Africa, apart from knowing Africa as they would be asking you, you come from Africa. Is Ghana in Nairobi? So when someone asks you, is Ghana in Nairobi, which list of when someone tells you, I have a friend in Nigeria, can I give you something to drop to them? It talks about how backward they are. No, Nigeria is not enough. We've got to stand up to be what we are, because we have a greater knowledge, and there is something greater that we can do. It is only us that look down upon ourselves. It is until we stand out and begin to know who we are, and then we will do great things. So someone asking you me, I've been asked questions in the West that I keep wondering where they're coming from a human being. If someone asks you, how many lions do you have? How many lions do you have? They should be able to know you can't stay with a lion. We are. Let's have a mindset. Let's have a shift in our mindset to stand our ground and know who we are, not what people say we are. Looking at it all, you will realize that once we know who we are, respect ourselves, take our ground, people will begin to respect who we are. Okay. Yes.
Awesome. Wow. I want to appreciate one Khadija Mohammed that joined us. Nancy Minor, thank you. Martin Casina, welcome aboard. Hannah Aliyah, we appreciate you. Come on, Robert, thank you. Dinam Niwa joined us. Benina Mbada, Jeremy K. Molly, Zeph Onditi, Wamboi Moraya. We are so glad you're watching. Lydia Wangui, thank you. Lydia Fox, Aaron, Boniface Wamboa. Of course, we have Andrew Mware, we have Zeph Onditi, Angela Nzioki, Toniski Asonga, Mark Karaoke, Rosemary Nyumu. We've got Lydia Wangui again, and of course, Andrew Gathirimo, so on and so forth. Guys, welcome so much. This is Mathew's Coffee Bar, chilling out with my friends as we talk about current affairs and as we sharpen one another. Like scripture says, iron sharpens iron. David, I come back to you because Becky is just, she just was on a roll right there. And I mean, great things coming out from that. But the reality is this, we obviously I mean, and I recommend, there's a guy called Akala that has written and done some amazing videos if you want to watch those. And actually, he actually proves to the West. He's an African British who wears dreadlocks and very, very educated guy that has done so much research, about the early civilization, and you'll be blown away just to watch his videos and read his material. And he reckons, actually, you'll be surprised that actually Africa was more civilized than the West was somewhere back. Something happened, but that's information. You can check it out for yourself on Google. You'll be able to find it. David, are we still colonizing our minds? And yes, Becky says those amazing things that she's bringing, but we are leaders. We've got to figure out a way to pass on this information. Try to get people to understand that, hey, we are free, and we cannot continue to be under some yoke of some white people, some colonialism that they came with, and they seem to have left that spirit around here. We need to be free from that and be proud that we are African and we are black, and that something great and good can come of Africa. David.
The other day I said something. I said, everything rises, and John Maxwell said, everything rises and falls on leadership. And it looks like Kenya is staggering due to the leadership. The reality of leadership is huge. It's not, I don't think the general population of our nations is still thinking colonized.
Yeah.
The problem we have is that the white man left, the colonizer left, but he left a black colonizer. So it's just the color that's changed, but the plan is more or less the same.
Yes, it's just the color that changed, David.
The color changed, and now it's even camouflage. So we can't tell them directly. When Mzungu passes, just a William Colon, the same color, but the treatment is the same. All right. All of us, I think, all of us here have grown up in Eastlands. You know what it means to walk at night and meet the police. In Africa,
telling you don't want to talk about that. Yes.
That's a story for another day. You've seen enough things. With your size, there's just a sense of violence that comes from a policeman, and they see a big guy, just like who.
Ni nyama ya kupigwa rungu.
Lazima apigwe kwanza.
The surface area.
The color changed, but the treatment remained the same. The same acts of the same laws that were put in place by the Britons are still the same laws that are in place today. To this day, almost 60 years later, we still get arrested for a traffic offense in a country that is meant to be one of the most developed countries in the world. Rwanda, a country that was almost at the deathbed 20-some years ago, has a policeman stops you for a traffic offense. They take your driving license, take the details. They tell you this is the fine. You go home. You have 3 days to come and pay your fine. If you don't come in 3 days, it's just doubled or something like that. And that is it. We have policemen, guys in police stations right now, sleeping the night because they were talking on a phone.
Imagine.
We can't develop. Our court system is full of people who have a traffic offense, who were overtaking, who did not wear seatbelts, guys who were working at night who got late. The other day we had one of our gospel artists arrested and put in quarantine because he was late to get home.
Yeah.
And in fact, today I was seeing a clip somewhere. Somebody took a video of policemen with a pickup full of people arrested for whatever reason. How will you save COVID when you're stashing people? And if you know any police cell in this, there's no social distancing in any police station in this region. There is none.
No, it's not going to happen.
So let me tell you, if Corona was to get us, the police will have really helped Corona.
Sure.
Servants of Corona, right?
Yeah. How do you stand up from a place like that and go and tell a white man whose nation defends him to the hilt that we are equal when you're coming from a colony?
Yeah.
And so our mindset has not changed. Our laws have not changed. our treatment of one another has not changed. Until that changes and shifts, then we can begin to stand out. And I want to pick the example of Rwanda. If something happens to a Rwandese here in Kenya, there's a time there was a bus accident in Uganda and some Rwandese were in that bus. The Rwandan government sent its military choppers, picked their victims.
Is that so?
Because they say, you guys are joking about this thing. You guys are not reacting fast enough. Before Museveni knew what was happening, guys have been picked and taken home. Yeah, in Kenya, the only time people were picked were because there was some PCA, I think there was some heavyweights from PCA who had an accident in Tanzania. And of course, the system was not working. And they had to send the presidential jet to go and pick them because hakukuwa na chopper ya jeshi kuenda kuwachukua. So how do you begin to tell yourself, I am a citizen of a nation, I am an African and proud? What are you proud of? We are walking through garbage. We are walking through sewage. We have no water. We are told sanitize, wash your hands. With what?
Yeah.
No,
water in your hands.
There's no water.
I wanted to say in Turkana, Nanoka told people to sanitize with cow urine. That's what the governor of Turkana just told his people.
Oh dear me! Oh my!
So here we go. You know, me. I was actually annoyed, and I think this is the time we need to invite back at Wally with his Mshenzi Manenos, because to be very sincere, I had the CS for, is it water and sanitization, saying for the first time, our dams are so full. This is going to history. And yet they cannot pump water. They cannot pump water. To be very sincere.
Let me tell you what they say. The inside scoop is that the machines we are using, the machines we are using, and I said it the other day, the machines we are using, even the instructions are in King James Version of English. Turn thou this noble hither. Those are the instructions. Those things are from independence to this day. We are
doing King James.
I'm telling you.
Somebody take the NIV there.
So guys,
no Message Bible.
You have to go to the King James Version. You won't understand those machines. You can't.
Yeah.
Those machines were produced years ago. Why can't we be able to develop? Why can't we, even if it's buying capability, because we might not be able to produce everything, why can't we then buy capability to be able to come and put new equipment so that even if there's siltation, we know what to do to clear the silting? Because that's the problem we have. It's not that there's no water. The water is there, but the machines are not able to clean it up as fast as possible. Yet countries like Singapore are recycling everything, including sewer water, to drinkable standards.
Yeah.
There's no way we are going to go to a Western country and tell them, Sisi Ndewale was say, oh, we are proud and we are dragging behavior out of the fourth world.
Oh, man, I'm hearing you, David. Okay, guys, we've got to wrap it up for the day because my time is run off. And thank you, David. You just made my evening here. I mean, language is King James language. Okay, guys, I'll still provoke you. You are the now generation. You are, you're fresh minds. You see the problem. Which way forward? Do we just leave it? Talk about it and then that's it? Or what do we need to do? Of course, we had a similar discussion a couple of days ago, actually last week, I think. We had Oscar here. One of the places we discussed, David, was beginning to go to primary schools and some of the initiatives that have been, kind of just started by some of our members, and just begin to build, inculcate value, great leadership, and things like train them against corruption. Just bringing a crop of leaders that 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road can actually lead this nation ahead. But you know what? There has to be a long-term process. There has to be a short-term as well. Yeah. And I don't know what you guys think now. We have 2 years to be able to figure out which other leaders are we going to put into place. But you can already see now Tanga and Kieleweka in serious trouble. Already as it were, I mean, seriously speaking, there's a new majority leader, and it's like happened with some form of coup d'etat, and boom and done. And so guys are beginning to jostle and position themselves. What can we do now? And begin our process as we work out on the helping the younger ones, to change their thinking. You're not colonial. You are equal to anybody. You can do anything. This is your nation. Be proud here, and you can change things. We will work at that. But in the now, what can we do? As we wrap it up, guys, I would like to hear what can we do to bring to effect change. Of course, this already is something we are talking. People are hearing. But let's keep the conversation. But beyond the conversation, what else can we do?
Let me throw in my 2 cents and then step out. I have another meeting in like 10 minutes.
Go ahead, David.
But I think the challenge we face in our country, and we mentioned this a bit, we fix what is not broken and leave what is broken. Our children are not corrupt. Our children are not criminals. Their children are not political animals that are doing things to us. And it's a good thing to be able to teach them those things. But the problem is that we leave the guys who are showing them all these models still ruling. And so unless we learn by example, there's nothing that you can do over an example. Experience will always trump education. And so we need to be able to handle and boldly address the issues of governance in our nation. As a church, as individuals, as business community, as social groups, we need to be able, and you've noticed that there are times if we really put our foot on the pedal over something, the government actually responds. We shouldn't be paying simple things like right now, we shouldn't be paying for people to go on quarantine if they are suspected to be sick with coronavirus. We shouldn't be paying medical bills for people who are, we've been given a whooping almost 20 billion Kenya shillings. Where is it going? Nobody is asking that. We're trying to raise, the other day somebody is saying that let's raise money for guys who are in quarantine to be able to get them out. Who has put them in quarantine? Isn't it not our country? So some things, we can't be educating your children and you are rich. Afadhali tukuchape utoe pesa. So we need to straighten some things out so that we can be able, so that when we tell our children this is leadership, we can be able to show them Uhuru Kenyatta is a leader, so and so is a leader, so and so is a leader. Follow the example. But if we don't have models, we have to dig in and remove Mandela from the grave every time. We have to keep unearthing Mandela from his grave every time to come and show what leadership is.
Let the man sleep in peace.
We have to go and pull up guys who we don't even, our kids cannot even relate to because we don't have a real time.
That's true.
All right. So let's find good leadership. Let us define leadership, but also show leadership. I think those are my 2 cents. I'll beg to leave now because I need to catch up with another meeting. But thank you so much. But we need to revisit the discussion on what's the way forward.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, you are on Mathew's Coffee Bar. We've got to let David go, and he has just injected some fresh between me and my buddies, just talking about current affairs and most on leadership, trying to figure out which way to move forward. Let's release him. Thank you very much, David, for being here today. It's been a blessing. Becky, as we wrap it up, just your parting discussion. We've had a conversation. Which way forward? Yes, the kids, we would train them, walk with them, try to inculcate leadership. But there are models that they are watching. There are people that we need to begin to sort out right there. How do we get to go about that?
Thank you. Maybe as we just come to a close, I'm just thinking about, like we've said, in the next 2 years, it's not even 2 anyway, we'll be having elections. And as good as it is, we are happy for training and modeling the children that we are doing. But I was just imagining, we are making a generation that will be able to come, maybe 15 years to come. But before 15 years, the truth of the matter is, what are they seeing? Because sometimes many people learn what they see more than what they just be taught. So I've been thinking about church. I've been thinking as a church, Is there a way we can begin to prepare leaders? In the sense that, is there, we have congregations, and then in 2022, there'll be people saying, we are voting. As a church, are we thinking about who we are voting? Are we thinking about who is the person? I'm just wondering, I looked at the bunch of the leaders that we have today, and I was wondering if I was supposed to vote tomorrow, who am I voting to? Who am I voting for? Because in the next 2 years, we'll be voting. We need to get to a place whereby, yes, right now we are not congregated as a church, but maybe in a few days, in a few months, we'll be together. But the question we should be asking ourselves is, come 2 years' time, we are voting. Who are we voting? Is there a way we can begin even to just train up our people? Because we're talking about mindset. Our mindset is already, when it comes to leaders, you know what most of us know what our mindset is as far as leaders is concerned. We need to be asking ourselves as Christians, should we really be voting that way? Should we just vote someone because that person comes from my community, that person comes from where, or this person is like this? Can we begin to help men and women in our midst that seem to be having a leaning on leadership, that we may train them in the next 2 years? We can be able to stand and tell people around, let's vote this guy. It cannot be business as usual. We keep talking under the chairs, under the seats. We don't want to be heard. Let's voice up. Let's say this guy is a good leader. We've seen, we have done ABCD, and as a church, we can vote this person. We need to present people, because when it comes to that time when we want to choose leaders, we are choosing people who are there, not people whom we are presenting as true leaders in this nation. I'm thinking that because if you look at what is happening in this nation, we are talking about this virus, and we are talking about trying to limit it, even when we are trying to say this area has been locked down. But how many people are still sneaking into those areas? The leaders we have are the ones who are still sneaking people into the same places. Should we just look and be quiet? It is our time to stand up and be able to say, what are we offering? We can't just talk, we must offer. What are we offering? So for me, as a church, let's begin to prepare some people that we can present and tell the others, this guy, we can vote him, and he can be able to give us the leadership that we are looking for. They may not be the best, but maybe something good can come out of them. That is what I think.
Okay, well, that's really awesome. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Becky. Michelle, let's hear your kicker, as we wrap it up for the night.
Thank you so very much. I think I will salute the contributions that have been made by David and our sister Becky. And I think it boils down to what we said the other time. I think we had a discussion that bordered where we are. And when we said, what do we need to do? And I remember what really came out was we need to start discipling people. I remember we mentioned about discipling them towards leadership and discipling them after leadership, so that they maintain that link, so that they don't go and become and be taught the old evil ways. Because there seem to be mentors in those echelons of power who mentor people out of godliness and good leadership. Once the good ones are deposited there. So we need to maintain that link with them. And then again, I think also something that I think I've gathered when Reverend Becky has mentioned, was talking, I think it's in the issue of coming out boldly, because we have avoided talking about this. We have not told people, I will tell you this, we have not told people, out of these people, according to what we think good governance is about and what good leadership is about, we think this is the guy we need to go for. That person may be, if he's prepared from within the church, the better off. If he's from without, we need to get to a place, I think, we start guiding people. Because I'll give you an example. Where I am, we had a leader that we were very close, and I think people blamed him because of a few failures, because no leader is perfect. And actually was crucified because of the road. The road really took him down. But the elections came, and from this one coalition, and you know where I'm talking about, I'm inside Machakos, so you know which side of the coalition I'm talking about. There were so many people, close to 17 aspirants And because it was deemed to be a zone for this coalition, there was only one guy who did not even know what he was doing. I think this guy was not just serious. So we went to the polls, and we people elected these guys from this coalition because this zone. And because there were so many of them, they divided the votes. And guess what? The guy from this other coalition is the one who carried the day. He was not voted. Alipita katikati yao. So I have discovered if we don't take initiative to raise people, we will actually end up with lousy guys while we are competing to divide the ones who are so many. What has we are suffered is I have never seen him. I'm actually told every day he is in the bar. There's a day he came to a church. And he was pulled from the bar. He came to church because his colleagues who had come to visit with him. I looked and actually pitied ourselves. Say, this is the guy. We kicked away a guy who seemed to be a bit sober. We picked the wrong guy, not because we voted him, but because there were so many people that stood in this coalition that this guy akapita katikati yao. This is the time we need to really become proactive, that we get the leaders we want, not the ones that pass in between the competition. No, we want to get the right people. That's my take.
Awesome. I think that's great right there. And I guess guys, you're getting provoked in that direction. I truly do hope come 2022, we will not just allow people to pita katikati yao and then they're not seeing. Ken, your parting shot.
I have just realized that if you have traveled a lot all over the world, you always need to conclude by my 2 cents, because I just had a few people who mentioned that.
What are you trying to say?
A quick one.
Yes.
Just a quick one, Reverend.
Yes. Sir.
There's a time while you were still in Umoja, you realized we had a group of people we could be able to exude confidence in them. They were called the young professionals. If you looked at them very carefully, you'd actually depend on their dexterity with regard to the skills and the performance and the tasks that were being allocated to them. And I think it's the responsibility of the church right now to be able to look at these young professionals, because that's the same thing the politicians do. Yeah. Whenever they want to begin to groom a leader, they go back to the universities, they pick up the bright minds, they give them money, they train them, they work together with them. And you end up seeing them nominated in different places. Can we as a church now go back to the, to the drawing board? Because we have a lot of young people who are in the university with bright minds that we can be able to depend on. And then just call in people that we know that, are influential in a positive way in this country. And that just pour into them, skills with regard to leadership. Because if we need to be very careful as leaders how we live, because we might be the only Bible that people are reading. And the young people are looking at us. And if we are not able, we ourselves, to take the center stage as leaders, then they'll have no better models or examples that they can be able to look up to. They'll only look at the politicians, and because there's only one narrative, if you want to be powerful, if you want to be influential, if you want to be rich, if you want to have a big car, then get into politics. But we can put people in politics while we have already trained them, we've given them values, so when they get in there, they know I'm not going there just to make money. I'm going there because I've been given an opportunity to lead the people and be able to affect every sphere of life positively because I have been trained. So we've got men and women with abilities in our churches or in different churches. Let the together and bring out the great minds. Let them be trained and let us push them into leadership. Thank you. Those are my 2 cents. Thank you very
much. Oh, Rich, your statement has been stolen. I don't know whether you're coming with 2 cents or it's 1.5 cents. So Richard Chogo, give us your parting shot as we wrap it up for the night.
Today, I will conclude by reading a scripture and saying a few remarks.
Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, I mean the situation we are in. There's a conversation that has been brewing in my heart over this period because of how we are, the situation we are in with regards to our response to the crisis we are in. It's in 1 Samuel 13, verse 19. It says, "Now there was no blacksmith to be found throughout the land of Israel, for the Philistines said, lest the Hebrews make swords or spears. But all the Israelites would go down to Philistine to sharpen each man's plowshare, his mattock, his axe, and his sickle." It's a sad reality of Africa that we don't have solution providers. We have to go look to the West, go to China, and these are places to get solutions because we don't have blacksmiths. Blacksmiths would create swords. We are banking on aid. We are banking on military aid. We don't have our own solutions. And so I think my suggestion is this, that number one, the church has a big role to play because we are the salt and the light. And how can we do this? We can do this by first and foremost becoming the champions of producing these blacksmiths. I think I mentioned to you, Reverend Mathew, some time ago in another conversation that we need to turn our churches into places where, like Reverend Ken and others have mentioned, especially Ken has mentioned, where we look at these professionals or people who are in different spheres in these 7 mountains that we've talked about over and over again, and begin to disciple them to be impactful there. And we begin to pray and trust God for them to have the mind of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and Joseph, where they can come up with solutions. And we need to be intentional. The church has not been intentional.
That's true.
Has been
intentionality.
There's been things. We need to be intentional about producing these blacksmiths. Because once we are able to produce these blacksmiths, then we will not be raising money for people to go to study in the US or to study in the UK to sharpen their swords, their mattocks, their axes out there. They will sharpen them here because we have blacksmiths here. And when another crisis comes, we will be found more prepared. I hope that by now, Kemri or whatever have taken that thing from Madagascar and they are studying it. Because if they are not, if they are studying things that and things that have been given by Americans, shame on Kemri. Shame on Kemri. And so my take is that, and also we need to. This one is not related to the verse I've read. We need to turn our churches not just a center for discipling influencers, people that shall make an influence, but we need to turn our churches to be civic education centers where we are teaching people, and that's what the prophets were doing. That's what John the Baptist was doing. He's saying, if you have taken something, return it. This is how civil servants are supposed to. If you're a tax collector, this is how you're supposed to be behaving. We need to tell people how they need to behave in the spaces they are in. We need to be a civic education is just helping people to know their civic duties and to teach them to do it. And so we need to do that. And then lastly, talking about leaders and the coming election, if we will make the mistake of joining the bandwagon of voting for a certain leader to punish a certain leader, we will fall into a lot of trouble. And I pray that the church will not be taken blindly, because I can see people are beginning to gravitate towards, that. And God forbid, if I would advise the church, I would advise the Christians, is please don't vote for anyone who's been at that national level. Don't vote for anyone at that national level that has been part of the challenges we've had. Let's look for fresh people. Let's look for new people. Vote for those who have proven themselves. I've said clearly that I'm going to vote for some people because they have proven themselves. And that's my MC and my MP. But president, deputy president, governor, I'm looking for other people. I'm looking for fresh people. All these old names need to go. That's my 2 cents.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time I had. But before we go, let me just appreciate what James Ndungu joined us, Ross Moremi, God bless you, daughter, Caroline, Susan, Zeddy Owino, Collins Alois, Grace Mwangi, Mercy Home, Penaina Nduku Obok, Bro Bill Ruhinda, Marco Kelvin, Billy Royal Koech, Grace Mangi again, and then Rogers Kadenge. I see him clapping his hands to us. Willie Odendo, God bless you, Bishop. Penaina Nduku Obok with Anthony G. Injero, Andrew Opicho, Lucy Kokonyo, and of course, Mary Gesare. And yeah, there's just a bunch of people that joined us as we were continuing this conversation. Guys, we've got to pick this up next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we need to pick this up and continue this conversation. Like Wagata provoked us, we need to keep on figuring out, educating the people out there, challenging the people that are watching us and listening to us on how we're going to have to move stuff forward. We cannot keep silent. David said, is there not a cause? And we will need to keep talking, need to keep having this conversation, challenging the status quo, provoking our minds to begin to think outside the box and getting people free from a colonial mentality. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, watching us on YouTube, watching us on Facebook Live, and of course on our website, www.dcdom.org. God bless you so much. That's all the time I had, chilling out with my friends. This has been Mathew's Coffee Bar. And of course, yours truly, Richard Chogo, Becky Baraka, Ken Odori, Pastor Michelle. We had David Owagata on board and Gitao. Next week, I've got another surprise coming up your way. Let's see you on Wednesday. Ladies and gentlemen, have yourselves a great night. And thank you for staying with us. God bless you.